Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Distance Learning Leadership Summit, brought to you by Santa Cruz County Office of Education, Tikal, Google for Education, and CDWG. We're happy to have close to 1,000 participants today from 18 different states and or countries. This started out as a very small kind of grassroots summit, which we'll talk about in a moment, and really just blossomed into a program to really focus on distance learning, as we all around leadership know there's a need around distance learning support. So let me give you a little bit of background on the history. My name is Jason Borgen. I'm Chief Technology Officer for the Santa Cruz County Office of Education, and also am president of the nonprofit Q Inc. board, which is an ISTE affiliate for California and Nevada. So this summit all started in May 2019, where TD, Google for Education, and Jeff Mitchell got together to focus on a regional summit in Santa Cruz County. For those people who do not know where Santa Cruz is, we're the northernmost tip of the Monterey Bay. If you've seen the movie The Lost Boys, that's all filmed in Santa Cruz. And so we started 2019 last May. We had about 125 participants from around the San Francisco Bay Area and Monterey Bay Area. And then we were planning on our second annual summit in March of 2020. Unfortunately, we had 150 people registered. We were about to launch. And then 3 days before that, we had to cancel it because of the pandemic. And so our health and safety of our educators and students are the most important to us. So we had to cancel that event. And so in April 2020, the group got back together and said, well, there's a need around distance learning, how to support our teachers, how to support our students around distance learning, and create a mindset and support structure for educational leaders. And so we put together the idea of a three half-day summits online. Nobody wants to be online full day here for a summit. So quick little 3-hour mini summits each day, focusing on 3 different themes. And so 2 months has gone by. We've been planning once a week or so for this event. And it just blossomed into 1,000 attendee event from all over the world. So welcome from Cairo, Egypt, those folks who registered. Welcome from Japan, welcome from New York, Texas, etc. If you can maybe put in the chat quickly where you're from, and making sure you have a state or city and your role if you have not done so already. And kind of what's the impetus of this event? Well, if you've seen this book before, this book was written in 2008 called Disrupting Class, all about how disruptive innovation changes the way we do business in schools. Michael Horn and Clayton Christensen said by 2019, 50% of all high school classes will be offered online, 50%. Well, they didn't make that mark quite, especially in California, we didn't make that mark, 50% of online high school classes. But who would have thought, because of the pandemic, spring of 2020, 100% of TK-12 classes were held at a distance. And it just blew up on us. And knowing the safety and security of our students and staff are the most important to us. We want to make sure we provide a safe environment for them, but also conducive to learning. And so that's a shock how 100% of our TK-12 classes are offered at a distance. And I know most of us are still planning on distance learning in the fall. And this event is to support you as you plan your 2020-2021 school year, which many of you have already started, or maybe even already completed. And so right now, we want to just get a sense, are you ready for fall? And you can just put in the chat, yes, I'm ready for fall. We know exactly what we're doing. No, we're not. And let's just get a quick pulse check. Are you ready for fall? And as those chats come in, I actually have a poll now to reflect on how well your distance learning went the last 3 months. So if you don't mind, go ahead and you should see this poll right now. Go ahead and let us know, how would you rate the success of distance learning for your district, school, or classrooms over the past 3 months? Very successful, pretty good. It could be better. We got work to do. And we see the results coming in right now with over 200 attendees in the room. If you're on the Facebook live feed, welcome. I'm sorry, the YouTube live stream, welcome from YouTube. You can just type in the chat what your results would be. All right, so 48% it could be better. Okay, so hopefully this event will help you push that over to pretty good or very successful. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll, and we're going to continue on. So we're excited to bring you 3 days. And I'm going to quickly share the results of the poll. Let me share those results so you see them. And you can kind of see where people live, almost just close to half, said it could be better. 17% said we got work to do. And so hopefully for those people we got work to do, the idea here is to take what you learn and push it on to the next level as you start the new school year. And with that, I want to kind of talk about these 3 days. 3 days, 3 themes. The first day, today is all about how to redesign our school system, redesign our approaches to schooling. Tomorrow is all about how do you support teachers around instructional design for distance learning. And finally, the last day is all about how do we take care of our staff? How do we take care of our parents and families around wellness and communication? So all 3 of these pieces kind of make up this new paradigm of distance learning during this pandemic. And I just want to do a quick shout out to folks who are helping out our sponsors who are going to be providing some raffle items. Everybody likes to raffles at summits, and we're not going to leave you hanging. We do have some raffles today. Thank you to our sponsors. And now I want to give the mic, if you will, to our CDW reps, Jeff Mitchell and Joe Marquez.
Hey guys, Jeff Mitchell from CDW. Thank you guys all for joining. This is a long time coming. So Jason, thank you for all your hard work, and thanks for all the other sponsors that are here to attend. But thanks everyone for joining. If you don't know who CDWG is, we are the nation's largest technology and services partner. We partner very heavily, specifically in K through 12 across the country. And we have Joe Marquez here today, who has been a massive help on our end in helping put together some of these sessions. And Joe is one of the members of our education strategy team. So I will let Joe introduce himself as well.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Joe Marquez. I'm an educator out of the Central Valley of California. I live in Clovis, California. I spent 10 years as a secondary science teacher, and then I moved into an instructional technology role for my district. And now I work with CDWG, where my team, the education strategist team, strives to help and collaborate with schools to make sure their vision is meeting the needs of their students, their staff, and their community.
Great, thank you, Joe and Jeff. I'm going to go ahead and give them quick little mic back to Joe to kind of share what the next few days are all about.
Yeah, so the daily schedule is going to be quite similar every day. We're going to kick off with a kick note, and then we'll break off into our sessions that start at 9:35 and 10:25. And we're going to end the day with chat-abouts, which are going to be, you're going to join with groups of educators who are in the kind of the same realm of capacity that you are in your district. And you're going to chat about your wins, and the things that you can do to make sure the fall semester is great. If you have any issues at all, we do have a help desk open the entirety of each day. And we also have a remind set up. And if you would text at DLL Summit to 81010, you'll get automatic updates. If any sessions get moved, if any sessions get canceled, you'll get instant updates for anything like that. And as always, the learning is going to continue even after this fact. So we would love for you to share what you've learned, things that you liked about the summit with all of your friends and other fellow educators on your social media channels.
Thanks, Joe. And just to remind people, all the resources, all the session links are available at this site right here, leadership.santacruzcoe.org. All right, with that, let's go ahead and give the mic to our second partner, which is Google for Education, and TD is a representative for Google for Education. He actually lives in Santa Cruz County. TD?
Hey everyone, my name's Thomas Dixon, or TD. Good to see everyone. Glad we had such a great turnout. Couldn't say no. Jason is just so passionate about not just sharing resources and best practices in the county, but wants to share them obviously all the way to Japan and back, which is pretty inspiring. Couldn't be happier with the turnout and also the leadership of this event. Like Jason mentioned, I live over in sunny SoCal. Around the corner, and I've got a 2.5-year-old running around the background who will be a product of the Santa Cruz County Office of Education's work. So I have a vested interest in this work, and like Jason mentioned, I work for Google for Education. I essentially work with schools, school districts up and down California. I'm a small but mighty team. And wonderful to see you all. We've got a really action-packed 3 days for you, filled with great content, amazing speakers, great sessions, and couldn't be more happy with Jason's leadership on that. So really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, TD. It's definitely a partnership. It takes a village to put something like this on, and I appreciate the partnership. And with that, the Tikal Technology Information Center for Administrative Leadership is actually a statewide project supporting school administrators using technology that's based out of Santa Cruz County Office of Education. I'm going to introduce the executive director, Roland Baker.
Hi, all. I'm really honored to be here today and to be with educators from around the world, really, as we face these challenges like we've never seen before. Tikal started in its birth came out of the California Department of Education during a time of challenges when things are moving very rapidly and we didn't have enough trainings for our leaders. So that is where it started. It's been going for over 20 years in partnership with our county office, and it's been a great experience. We've had tens of thousands of educators that have come through our trainings over the time. It was nominated as a success story in the National Ed Tech Plan under the Obama administration. We partnered with Future Ready Schools, California Department of Ed, ISDQ, just, you name it. And I guess one of our biggest partners here in California is AXA, which is the Association of California School Administrators, and they have 28,000 members there in that organization. So they've been a great partner in the lead for us to keep fingers on the pulse. You'll find that many of the speakers, moderators today will be former Tikal or current Tikal cadre members, which help and assist us through that area. It's my honor today to not only be a partner in this, but to get to introduce our Keynote speaker, Dr. Farris Sabbagh. Farris was born in Iraq to a multiracial family. He immigrated to the US into the Bay Area at the age of 9, and then grew up part-time here and part-time in his mother's native country down in Ecuador. He went to school here right here in Santa Cruz at UCSC. He did his doctoral work up at the University of California in Berkeley in a new program, which was urban leadership, and was groundbreaking as he went through that. And he has continued to be an educator here in Santa Cruz County his whole life. He worked in the Pajaro Valley Unified School District, which was a very diverse community. And what I saw about Farris, because I've known him just about since he started work here in our county, was that he had, first of all, he's probably one of the smartest guys I've ever known. And secondly, the fact that he spends a lot of his time working with underrepresented youth and really understands the struggle of immigrant children and has a real passion there, and it hits all of our hearts. So at this point, I want to turn it over to Dr. Farris Sabbagh.
Thank you so much, Roland. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get my screen up here. And let's to 11 here. All right. It's really a pleasure to be here today and to speak with folks from across the world. I want to just put a shout out to everybody who is involved in creating this opportunity, and really welcome everybody from all over the world for joining us today. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about myself, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an immigrant, equity-driven, curious, educational leader. I'm a language learner. I've been in education for 28 years. I'm a data geek. I live in Watsonville. I grew up in Iraq and Ecuador, as Roland shared. I'm a father of 2. I see myself as a disruptor. I studied at UCSC, San Jose State at Berkeley. I identify as Latinx. I'm a systems thinker, a servant leader, and I like to cook. And so there's just a brief summary of my introduction. I think that you would agree with me that this moment is extremely important. I think that when I think about things in evolutionary terms, I think that whether we're talking about a virus or an educational system or our society, our biggest steps many times are taken as a result of necessity, out of a need for survival. And part of dealing with an emergency such as the COVID-19 crisis is that we need to respond assertively and skillfully to adapt to mitigate that emergency. And I think that we've done that. But I also think that it's exposed such a deep and growing inequity that exists in our society. It gives us an opportunity to reimagine how schools should be, how schools should look, how institutions should look, how institutions should stand for justice. And as if we face the challenges of reopening our schools and restoring our schools, we've all been contemplating the possibilities of massive cuts to education and grappling with the outcry for social justice and racial justice. I think we stand at a crossroads, a tipping point, if you would, between flourishing or dangerous decline. The convergence of forces that is taking place right now is transformative. And I think it gives us a lot of opportunities. As I think about how quickly things have evolved in our environment, I look at this timeline and I think that just 3 months ago, the governor of California declared an emergency because of COVID-19. Santa Cruz County was one of the first counties in the state to declare an emergency as a county and to close down our schools. We shifted quickly to delivering instruction through distance learning. We worked through policies of grading, graduation, planning for reopening in schools, many of the things that you've been experiencing and struggling with. I'm in awe of how our educational community has pivoted and adapted to the COVID-19 pandemic. And what we've done in these weeks is nothing short of extraordinary. But yes, yet again, it has exposed those inequities and the challenges, the huge, deep challenges that we need to face. I think we have to accept that our society is fundamentally flawed. It's unfair, and it's getting exponentially worse. When I think about the distribution of resources, I think about the haves and the have-nots. And even before COVID-19, the number of people living in concentrated poverty in the United States doubled from the year 2000 until the year 2015. Our most needy students and families are in bigger need and greater need than they've ever been before. The equity challenges that we faced under the COVID-19 crisis have been magnified, and our schools were a part of addressing those challenges. But many of the essential services and safety nets that our students were used to receiving from our community were put at risk. The basic needs of our families. Many of our families lost their jobs. We've seen increases in home insecurity, food insecurity, income inequality. In the Pajaro Valley, many of our students began working in the fields to help their families make ends meet. Nearly 1 in 5 of our students in our county didn't have internet connectivity. This connection offers more than just access to the learning opportunities for students. It represents a lifeline of available resources. We also lost about contact with about 10% of our student population, trying to reach out to them. For our undocumented or our mixed status families, there was an additional fear that their immigration status would lead to incarceration or deportation, and they were reluctant to access many of the available resources and services that we offered. When it comes to mental health, the isolation of students led to increases in anxiety and depression. The Diversity Center, which is a local nonprofit that works with our LGBTQ youth, shared that many of our students, many of our LGBTQ students, many of whom have not come out to their parents, felt like they lost their safety net by not being able to go to school. And increases in anxiety and suicidal ideation. Our students with special needs found themselves in some cases without direct access to their support system and their services. Students, parents, and teachers felt overwhelmed, stressed, and exhausted. We became aware of the increases in incidences of domestic and sexual violence. One of our partners here in Watsonville, Monarch Services, reported an increase of 30% in calls related to domestic and sexual violence. Our community was in crisis. And our schools and our community mobilized. We responded to this crisis. We reached out to our off-the-grid students, calling, texting, contacting emergency contacts to get them back in, to get them back connected. Our schools began offering essential services, offering meals at 30 locations across the county. We launched an outreach campaign to provide guidance on health practices, especially in areas like Watsonville, which are overrepresented when it comes to COVID-19. With a greater focus on wellness and social emotional health, our counselors and therapists and other support systems pivoted to provide services online. The pandemic mobilized a community of service providers, nonprofit agencies, and organizations. Now, you may not know this, but Santa Cruz County has the largest number of nonprofits per capita in the state and maybe even in the nation. And these folks came together like never before. We developed better ways to refer students and families, to collaborate, to share information, and to ensure that students receive the services that they deserve. We invested in equipment to bring internet connectivity to more families. Thousands of hotspots were given away to families or provided to families from the Pajaro Valley Unified School District, the Santa Cruz County Office of Education, Santa Cruz City Schools, and other school districts across the county. Our superintendents came together from every school district to talk about solutions, to collaborate and share resources. This all happened in a matter of days and weeks. In perhaps one of the greatest and fastest pivots in educational history, our amazing teachers began delivering instruction online. Now, at its best, online learning and distance learning is a lifeline of resources, engaging learning and human connections. At worst, it's exhausting, bad Zoom meetings. And I think you know what I'm talking about when I talk about that. As a parent of a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old, I can tell you that this was hard. And for many of our families who struggled with many of the challenges I described earlier, it has been so much harder. It takes a great deal of training and skill to create effective distance learning opportunities. The challenges of differentiation, serving all students, including our special education students, our English learners. It's challenging in a traditional classroom, and doing so online is even more challenging. Finding ways to connect meaningfully and to create engaging content is extremely hard. And our schools launched an intensive level of communication with families to make sure that our distance learning efforts were effective. We focus on social emotional wellness, not first, before we focus on academic achievement and progress. Our districts conducted surveys on an ongoing basis to gather information and fine-tune our efforts. Both individual and group check-ins with students were taking place daily. Teachers across the county reported mixed levels of engagement, and they evolved and transformed their practice to be able to address that. As we found this COVID slide, students falling back in terms of their educational learning and language arts and math and other subject areas, teachers adjusted their lesson plans, focused their efforts, went deeper in learning, and provided students with some amazing, exciting opportunities for learning. Now we recognize that blended learning is here to stay. So we need to get better at it. Our schools are starting to produce their reopening plans detailing how we're going to prepare for some mind-boggling restrictions. I saw all the chats saying, no, we're not ready. Well, we're feeling the same way. We are working hard on preparing those plans, but we recognize that distance learning is a necessary, essential part of education today and probably forever. Many parents aren't ready for their kids to return to school. Many of our teachers and staff are not ready to return to school. These contingency plans that we're putting together focus on the possibility of another COVID-19 outbreak, which would mean that school facilities could be shut down. And distance learning is what's going to be filling that void again for education. We need to continue to focus on elevating access, on building relationships, to learn for kids that kids need to feel socially, emotionally supported. They need to feel safe, to be engaged, to have good relationships with teachers and other adults. Now, when I think about the word safety, and I think about what's been happening in the world lately, I think that it's something that's been in the forefront of every educator and everybody who's been paying attention to the news and thinking about what is happening to the world. The devastating deaths of George Floyd at the hands of police officers has yet again brought to light the ongoing systemic inequality, oppression, and violence that Black Americans experience every day, and the urgency in which it needs to be addressed. I think nothing could be a clearer manifestation of systemic racism and oppression for our Black community. The tragedy has also prompted us all to think deeply about how our identities and actions impact systems of racial discrimination. We must come together as a community to deepen our commitment to our shared values of diversity, inclusivity, and justice. We have to take concrete steps to crystallize this commitment. It has shaken the foundation of this country, and it offers us an opportunity to come clean as a society to acknowledge these centuries of oppression. Now, I recognize that the lived experiences of Black students and other students of color stretch beyond our schools. But as an educational institution, we must recognize that it is imperative we look internally to address our implicit bias and discriminatory practices at multiple levels, at the individual level, at the interpersonal level, at the systemic level. As educators, we have the responsibility to help students learn about the important history that has shaped the world we live in today, build their capacity for critical thinking, and encourage them to participate in civic engagement to help make their communities safer. It's essential that we prioritize equity in our schools, in our district offices, in our county offices, and communities by embracing courageous conversations about race so that we can collectively transform our schools and communities into places of love, places of safety, places of accountability, and equitable opportunity. I cannot imagine a conversation today about transforming our schools without a conversation about racial justice. We have an opportunity to embrace our individual responsibility and to inspire our youth to exercise their civic voice and transform the world they inhabit and lead. Now, one of the challenging things that's taking place as we address both the COVID-19 crisis and this need to embrace this moment to dive deep into addressing the need for racial justice in our society, we're also confronting yet another challenging moment, which is the potential budget cuts. As I speak to you at this very moment, the governor and representatives from the Assembly and the State Senate are trying to work out a compromise for the budget. On the one hand, we are looking at a devastating 10% cut to education. On the other, some modest increases. Both proposals are reliant on federal funding that may not materialize. As we recognize the important role our schools play in addressing these deep inequities, we need to think about budget cuts as an opportunity to show our values, to prioritize and allocate resources. But our society's prioritization of education as a value is what needs to happen here. Our schools are maximizing resources, and we do what we can to provide innovative practices and partnerships with local community agencies. We could do so much more for our students if our schools would receive full and fair funding. If we recognize that schools are the epicenter for linking families to essential services, if we can offer a space to discuss issues of race, issues of class, we can create safe spaces, find solutions to the deep inequities that exist in this moment. I stand before you hopeful that our schools now more than ever are beacons of hope. It is here that our students will find their voices to speak out with courage and compassion. It is here that our students will tap into their passion to find solutions to the profound challenges we faced. We may have learned that here doesn't really need to be literally here, that our relationships can transcend face-to-face contact, that our teaching can continue to evolve to meet the challenges we face, to evolve to develop learning experiences that are exciting, transformative. I am inspired by our community coming together to stand together, to fight together, by the voices of our students crying out for safety, for justice. COVID-19 has been a wake-up call for us. It'll continue to challenge us. And I think about the strength of character, adaptation, and broadening of perspective that has happened to everybody in our learning community. With a commitment to community partnerships, a focus on equity, and the ever-evolving tools to improve the delivery of instruction, I stand hopeful for the transformation of our schools. Our families deserve better. We need to stand with them. We need to build schools that are worthy of our students. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Very powerful, Farris. Thank you so much. And what a way to kick us off our event, and really kind of with the theme of equity. And so thank you, everyone. Go ahead, and there's about a 5-minute break for you guys to find your next session. These are breakout sessions. They're repeated for the next 50 minutes, and then the second session, and then the chat abouts for your job alike discussions. So thank you, Farris, and we'll see you guys soon.